I added lentils to my meat sauce as an experiment, and I'll do it again. This was a great way to supplement some of the beef in my sauce, beef being much more expensive than lentils, while at the same time adding nutrients, including a lot of great fiber. I started by searing the beef with some salt and pepper. And instead of taking the time to chop and saute onions, I went ahead with a shortcut mirepoix in my mini food processor. A mirepoix is a flavor base usually in French cooking that's carrots, celery, and onions, but it's also the base of the aromatics in most bolognese sauce recipes. I had to do this in a couple of batches because the food processor is so small, and also I like to make sure I add a lot of onions to my sauce. Once the meat has sufficiently caramelized, I assess the grease situation in the pan, and there's really not enough. So I'm supplementing with a little olive oil before adding my blended aromatics. And as always, I add salt to every ingredient that goes in that doesn't already have salt in it. And I salt on the lighter side, so that way I don't have to measure. I just salt everything as it goes in, then I taste at the end and adjust as needed. And what's really nice about processing these vegetables first is that it takes no time for them to cook. I'm crushing my dried basil and oregano as I add them to release the essential oils. I'll also add more later before I simmer the sauce for greater depth of flavor. I'm using red lentils because that's what I have. I measured a full cup and then rinsed them well, and then they boiled in unsalted water for 15 to 20 minutes. Supposedly boiling lentils and beans in salted water will make them tough, so I season them after cooking. Now, I made this baked pasta for company, and before serving it, I let everyone know that I added something different to the sauce as an experiment. And I thought getting that heads up was going to really help them identify that there were lentils in with the meat. I should mention that when I make a tomato sauce, my preference is for a canned tomato puree with nothing added. I also like adding alcohol, in this case a couple of ounces of dry white wine, anytime I make a tomato sauce, because some of the flavor compounds in tomatoes are alcohol soluble. So that makes sure we're getting the full depth of flavor of the tomatoes. And speaking of depth of flavor, here's the additional dried herbs before I lid the sauce and simmer it for about an hour. This made enough sauce for a really large pan of baked pasta and then gave me extra sauce left over for another meal. As with all my baked pastas, this one was a crowd pleaser, and I have to tell you, no one guessed that there were lentils in the sauce. I boiled some Protein Plus penne according to package instructions and reserved some of the pasta liquid, which helped me get the sauce to the consistency I wanted. Shredded mozzarella on top and then bake until bubbly. This was so delicious and nutritious, and yes, I'm definitely making again because it was such happy